This is Heidi Bowman, podcast host of Bringing It Home with Heidi, where we cover a myriad of topics that I find fascinating and hope that you do too. So, when you think of the word marketing, what does it conjure up for you? Advertising, branding, PR? So, the basic definition of the word marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. You would be surprised to know that companies and organizations are not the only entities that need strategic planning, branding, advocates. So do people like you and I. What if you already lead a good life with a great job and you want to take your game to the next level or tweak things a bit to be happier, a higher performer? How about all of it? What if you really don't have an idea as how to do that? Now, what if I told you it all starts with getting crystal clear about your own personal brand? Would you be able to articulate what your personal brand is? So today, I have the distinct pleasure of chatting with Monique DeMeo. She is the founder and CMO of On Demand CMO and a 30+ year veteran of the communications and marketing industry. She also happens to be a very dear friend of mine, and she has mastered the art of being the chief marketing officer for her clients' businesses, as well as her own life. So today, we are going to discuss this process in more detail and share what it can yield, no matter where you are in your life cycle. Being intentional about your life, your work, choices, your brand is critical for alignment at the end of the day to your happiness. So welcome, Monique. Guys, I can't tell you how excited I am about having Monique with us here. She has been and has become one of my dearest friends. And you put the two of us in a room and it could explode. But she's one of the few people, and I think she would probably say the same about me, is that we really do get each other. And we can really go at it, but we understand each other and we know where we're coming from. And it's because we are like spirits, the way we will respond passionately in life, we don't see it as a negative. We just see it as part of who we are. And that's very rare to find. And so I'm just so excited to talk to her.
Yeah, me too.
So Monique and I have worked together professionally, and she's also been a good friend of mine. And as I said in the beginning, I bet you people never think about the chief marketing officer of their life. They just never do. And I just think it's so clever. So what I want Monique to do for us first is, what does a CMO do in business, in life? What do you do every day of your life for your clients?
All right. So chief marketing officers are the C-suite executive that determines sort of the strategic direction of the brand, the sales, the marketing, the social media, all the things that you touch as a consumer or as a business. It could be B2B or B2C, business to business, business to consumer. You will experience something that a CMO has determined is relevant or worthy of that brand. So we set the strategy, we position that brand in the market, we create the marketing, promotion, social, all that stuff. And then we give them sales support and help them figure out how they're going to get more traction. So that's all a CMO does in business. And so if you were to take that CMO in business out, what is it that you want your life to have in terms of traction, in terms
So
of...
stop there for a second. If you weren't around, this is how important I want people to understand about marketing. If someone doesn't market what they do, what happens to that business? So marketing is a word people throw around. Everybody thinks they know how to do it, right? But I just wanted you to break it down a little bit more for me as it relates to business, because when you get into it as it relates to life, I think
Yeah.
people need to understand what it means if you don't do it.
Right. So here's the thing. If you open a storefront, I'm going to give you like a bricks and mortar and I'm going to give you an e-commerce.
Okay.
So as a consumer, we've all bought stuff online.
Hmm.
Imagine Amazon as a master marketer. So
Hmm.
if they didn't promote certain things, certain products, they didn't know your algorithms, they didn't know your behaviors, they didn't know what products to serve you up, they would be far less successful. If you
Hmm.
open a bricks and mortar store in the middle of some town and didn't have a Google business listing and you didn't do any promotion and you didn't have a website and you didn't offer special services or make people understand why they should even stop in, your foot traffic is going to be pretty light.
Hmm. So what you're hearing is that, and so what Monique does even before that is she goes in and helps a business identify who they want to be. There
That's
is a thing that they're selling. It's a service or it's a product.
right.
But
So
as
let
she
me,
used the right, so if she used the example of the bricks and mortar shop, if you don't even know what it is you're selling and who you want to sell it to, you're going to have no business.
well, the other thing, I think that was a good segue, what you just said, because
Hmm.
what a lot of our clients, we do a lot of big technology clients. So, if
Hmm.
we're dealing with the Intels or the Cox Communications or the Spectrums of the world, they all walk talk similarly, right? And they say the
Hmm.
same things and they're all
That's
engineers.
right.
So they like to say these complex things thinking that people really resonate with them. Well, guess what? They don't. Nor do people resonate with a brand that is trying to be all things to all people. Think about Apple. Think about what Apple stands for. What from the boxes that they design
Hmm.
to the products that you wear. I'm in love with my Apple products, but the cleanliness, they literally have a team of people making sure that every single brochure, every single box, every single packaging, all of it is consistent and clean and is incredibly aligned with what they want to stand for. So
Hmm.
they're fun. They're not any better than Windows based. At the end of the day, when you look at the technology, proprietary, very open. I can get into the whole,
Right, right,
technology
right.
thing, and I
But
won't do
generally
that.
speaking, they're selling technology.
At the end of the day, they're selling lifestyle. They're selling like
Yeah,
I'm the
true,
cool
true.
kid, right?
Yes.
So my point about that is you could have the same earbuds from Samsung, Apple, Ishkabibble, and blah blah. And
Hmm.
blah blah has to figure out who they want to sell it to and what their profile person is.
Hmm.
So what I'm getting at is whether you have a bakery, if you're a bakery and you want to sell just gluten-free items, like stand for that. Be about the gluten-free items.
Right.
Be about the people that have celiac. Be about that, that promotion.
Hmm.
So you can't be all things to all people in life and in business and in anywhere. So you have to
Yeah.
be really clear. Who are your peeps? Like think about how you feel comfortable, right? When do you feel most comfortable? When you're around people who get you, like you and I, right? We get each other.
Hmm.
Sure. Now, if we were in a room with a different kind of peeps, would we have as much fun? No. Would we even want to be in that room with those different kind of peeps? That's the question you ask yourself. Because
All right,
we're
so I want you to stop there for a second because this is the segue that I want. So Monique has just explained to you from a business perspective what she does for customers and how they need to set themselves apart. Now, the translation that she's going to take you through now into your personal life, the same thing stands. You cannot be everything. You cannot have 1,000 goals. You cannot want to lose 100 pounds and become Olympic athlete and
the captain of
save
industry.
right and save the forest and do whatever. So and you can't have 1,000 friends, and you could, but I mean, I'm not
You
sure about the
shouldn't.
quality of life, right?
Right.
So can you now take me slowly through how what you just shared, how that translates into the personal context of being the CMO of your life, and then
Sure.
share sort of how maybe you crafted yours.
Okay. So I think, I mean, you know this about me, but I think it's relevant to the audience about sort of my, very incredibly humble and difficult beginnings, right? So this is not like I didn't land on the planet at 57 I'm 57 now, but at 0 or at 5 or 10, 20, 30, 40 even, I didn't know a lot of this. So I'm not going to pretend that I am like, the guru of I got it all going on. Bullshit. let's just call it, let's call bullshit
Right.
on ourselves, right?
Right.
So I came here from France at the age of 5. None of my parents didn't speak English. I didn't speak English. It was an incredibly different transition. My parents were, when they had me, were 20 and 22 respectively. So they were children in and of themselves. I
Hmm.
didn't have a typical, I think you can relate to so much of this. I didn't have a very typical upbringing. I was the family interpreter. So interestingly enough, though, I want to stop there for a moment, and that is to say, at the age of 5, I was telling stories and communicating for people who couldn't communicate for themselves, and I do that today. Isn't that funny?
And it is funny. And, and what I was thinking about that was analogous in some ways is that you weren't allowed to be a child
Never.
because that extreme responsibility was put on you at a very young age through no
Right.
one's fault. And
That's
for
right.
me, in a different way, I got no validation from my parents. My parents were very young.
Yeah.
So I had to learn at a very young age to be the protector of my mother
Right. I
and to save
protected
the
my
world,
parents.
right?
Yes,
So for
absolutely.
me, like I took on a role at the age of 3 that I took almost all the way through my life. And
Right.
so,
Yep, we get it. That's one of the
right.
things I think we're kindred spirits in the sense that
Hmm.
that's what happened. So as a result of what happened, I became a lifelong learner like you. I've attended a lot of conferences and self-help programs and read a bunch
Hmm.
of books and how to actualize and all this other happy nonsense. But at the end of the day, being comfortable in your own skin is a process. It just doesn't happen. And you really have to put the work in. It's sort
Yeah.
of like, people saying, I want abs of steel, but they won't do the sit ups. It's very simple to say, I want to be something. The work underneath that, I want to be something, is where the success is.
So,
So,
so take me, so translate brand, because you and I we had a conversation yesterday because I wanted to make sure that Monique and I were talking the same language, because if you've ever been in a room with us and we're not, it's very entertaining. So and I was struggling with when I said to her, okay, but a personal brand, when I think of a personal brand, I think of people who are creating their businesses on the website, or, they're entrepreneurs, etc. And you said no. So explain to me personal brand in this
right.
context.
So here's the thing, back to, you can't be all things to all people. You have to kind of make a decision as to what's most important to you. You have to make a decision as to what you want to stand for, what you want to be known for, when people say, Heidi Bowman, what do they, and we'll get to that in a little bit, right? But what do they immediately come up with? When they say Monique DeMeo, when somebody says Monique DeMeo, you see me online or whatever, what happens? What's the visceral, what do you want that to be? Because that's in your control. Not what people say necessarily, but how they perceive you, because that's what you put out. So I have a thing called, you have to pick 3 words. And I'm going to get into that because they're right behind me. And if you see them, we'll get to that in a moment. People cannot remember more than 3 things: short, fat, and bald, tall, skinny, blonde. You get my point. Things come in threes. People remember, they can't remember more than 3. So you keep it to 3. What are your 3 words? You can change these 3 words every year. You can change them every month. You can change them. But at the end of the day, they have to have some essence, some narrative, some story behind it that is in a way a summary of what you stand for and what's important to you. So my
Mm,
3 words for the last couple of years have been intentional,
I see
bold,
that one. Bold we can't see, but
and
grateful.
gratitude,
And
right?
gratitude, sorry, yeah.
Right. So I want to be prescriptively intentional. So I don't want anything to happen by happenstance. I want to control my own destiny. And starting my own business 23 years ago, as a result of getting that priority, and frankly I had a wonderful corporate job, and I can get more into that in a minute, but I wasn't going to see my kid. Like, I just had a baby, and she was about a year and a half, and I was leaving the house at 7 a.m. and coming home at 7 p.m. And the person who saw her the most was my nanny. And I was, stressed and commuting and all that stuff. And I had asked my boss back in the day, can I, work from home? Does that seem ridiculous? Like we're laughing now.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my
Mm.
God, who doesn't
Who
understand?
knew? Who knew we lived to see that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So work from home. I didn't even say I want Mondays or Fridays. And, I had a full-time nanny,
Mm.
the whole thing. And he was like, yeah, I don't think so. I was like, oh, really? No, I don't think so. I'm out of here. So the point is, I wanted more control over my destiny so I could be with my kids. That was important to me. That was my priority. I want to be an intentional mom because in my mind, I could have a corporate career and I had a brilliant corporate career and I was getting paid lots of money. But if somebody else was going to raise my kid, what was the point of me waiting, 7, 8 years to have her to begin with? So that was in the intentionality that I use as my compass, my center point, my who am I? I'm going to be the best mom I can be. I can have any job. That's fairly easy, I think. But I can't screw up that part. So that was for me the intentional. The bold was I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to jump off the corporate ladder and I'm going to start this business. And if I fail, I fail. I can always go back. But if I succeed, then it's my success and I own it. And the grateful was I always want to come from a place of gratitude. And trust me, sometimes it's really hard when shit hits the fan. We have there's stuff happens. Life is, a series of stressful events and you have to try to,
I-
enjoy the ones in the middle of those valleys.
Right.
So the gratitude thing has been a really big, big, big thing. So whether you
So
talk
I'm
about,
going to stop you again because I want you to take me back now to the personal brand as it relates to those three words.
yeah. So I think that I have a thing when clients meet me I speak the truth, right? So I don't necessarily, if somebody says this is what I need, I'm say this is what you think you want, but that's not what you need.
Hmm.
That's bold. I literally will say that. So I am direct and I am that bold, right? And I don't have a fear of, well, maybe he won't like me. I don't care that he won't like me. But if I take his business on and I say yes to everything this client is asking me for, which I know as a professional doing this for 35 years, that he doesn't really need, who am I serving and who am I disserving? First of all, I'm not being true to myself. Second
Yep.
of all, he's going to get what he doesn't need. It's not going to work. Then he's going to come back to me and say, dude, it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because that's not what you needed. But then he's going to say, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm going to say, because I was afraid I really wanted you to like me. No, you do what you say what you do, and you be bold about it. And that's okay. Because guess what? If they don't resonate to the purpose and the intentionality of what I'm saying and my professionalism, I'm not going to do well with them anyway. So I've come to the realization that if you are who you are and your brand is true and you're clear about your brand and you're clear about what's important to you, shit lines up.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there. So what you're hearing is, the personal brand in the context of talking about it here is lining up with what is important to you in your life. And Monique will take you through some things, but she uses three words. And as she says, things change. We change. What you intend at 25 is different than what you intend at 35, 45, and so forth.
Yep.
But that grounding, going through that process, can become your compass. And it helps you then decide how you're going to go out into the world and who you're going to let into your world. Right?
And am I clear about it? Right. So if I'm not clear about it, it's a conscious thing. So
Right.
you can use your three words if and that's usually the best way to do it. You do it sort of instead of doing a New Year's resolution, you don't have to wait to the new year. You could do it on your birthday.
And you can do it anytime.
You can do it anytime. But if you
Right.
choose, if it's really hard for you to wrap your brain around the process, then you choose a moment in time and you say, okay, let me sit down and take stock of what's going on. Am I in? So this is the part of the CMO of your life. Okay. So this is part of the branding process that we do in business is we look at, what's going on in the market and how it's affecting
Right.
what's going on in the world that's affecting you. Do you have little kids, big kids? Do you have, you know, what are your priorities? Are you saving for stuff? Are you, whatever your priorities are, line them up with how you're behaving, what you're doing, how you are conducting your life. Like, as an example, somebody will say, well, I really want to lose 20 pounds. And I'm big into, as you know, I'm big into fitness, wellness, and nutrition. And that's like sort of my side passion, right? So I'll say, great. What are you doing with? said, you go to the gym? Did you take classes? Do you do videos at home? Yeah. Okay. Are you looking at what you're eating? Yeah, I'm trying to cut down on bread. Great. That's going to get you there. Not. So the point is, the point is your behavior has to line up with your words, right? So if you say, I want to lose 10 pounds, show me some actions that say, I want to lose 10 pounds. Here's a better idea. I am fit. I am worthy. I am my best self. Okay, that's a statement. And then just let your actions line up with who you want to be. Don't worry.
So,
The 10 pounds. So what I'm saying is people get caught up in the thing. The thing is not the thing. If they really look at it, the thing is not the thing. The thing is,
mhm.
how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? How do
So,
I want to be? So this part, wait, let me just
yeah,
go with this thought for one sec.
okay.
The part of how I want to show up is the brand. If I want to show up energetic and engaged and passionate, I know if I don't work out, I'm in dead trouble because when I
Mm-hmm,
don't work out, I'm a bitch. My
mm-hmm,
family will tell you, mom needs to go work out. Okay. Because it's been a while. Yeah, no, no good.
mm-hmm.
And if I don't eat right, I feel like shit. So I act like I have I have an anchor on my neck that I can't get rid of. So how I show up for everybody, whether it's my family, my husband, my clients, I'm going to not be my best self. So I know what it is. So take a look at how you want to feel, how you want to be, how you want to show up. You already know. People know themselves fairly well. Some people will not want to be self-aware, but at the end of the day, if you stop and really focus on yourself and think through your questions, you can answer them for yourself. So
Yeah. So it's interesting because I want us to go back to the three words a little bit later because I just love the idea of it. And for me, as you know me well, I don't necessarily, when I make decisions like that, and I intend for, I don't always come at it from a constructive place. So, for
mhm,
example, my why in 2020 for health and strength um, and then eventually, stopping spending money was, well, if I'm not going to, and the audience knows that, and that I have been suicidal most of my life. So if I'm going to be on the planet, I'm actually quite healthy. Then, okay, so my motivation was then I better create a life for myself because if I am making a conscious decision to stay here,
yeah,
then things have to change.
that's
And
right.
so what I want the audience to hear though is what, as we work through this, what I love about the way Monique goes about this is these three words. So Monique, how would I have taken that situation, which came from a place, well, shit, I'm healthy, so I bet as well do something different. How would I have done that differently based on what you just said?
So I think that you came from what do I want to be? How do I want to show up? I want to be alive. I want to be thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I want to be the best. If I'm going to be on the planet, I got to do it right. Right. So that's kind of where you started. And then the idea was, okay, so in order for me to be here a long term, there's a couple things I need to take care of. It's mental,
Mm-hmm.
it's spiritual, and it's physical. Those are the three things. It's really, whether you talk
And
to
financial, actually,
and
right?
the fine and true. Thank you for that as well. So if you don't have a savings that will take you into the long life that you've just decided that you're going to have, you're
Right.
screwed, right? So you got to what again back to behavior. So plan is good, end game is good. I am financially secure. Okay, I can't spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month on shit I don't need. Oh, okay. Priority. Word is I am
Financially secure.
financially secure, but the word I was looking for, okay, then we'll get to your three words because if I
Right.
don't,
Well,
the
they've
other one
changed
was,
already.
mhm.
They've changed since we've chatted way back in
Exactly,
the
right?
day
They have
already.
changed. So I got to reframe
Yeah.
for yours.
Yeah.
So then the other one was, okay, if I'm going to be on the planet and I'm going to have a good quality of life, I have to take care of the vessel. Oh, right. Fitness, right? Because fitness is physical. I got to take care of that component. Check. All right. Now what is it? Oh, my mental state, probably worth looking into. Do I want to be suicidal for the rest of my life? No, I've already made the decision that I'm going to stay on the planet. Okay, great. What do I need to do with my mental health to be healthy? So you put the plan in place because you had the end game. What do I want to be? You also went through the process of what what is my legacy? Like, what do I want to leave the planet with?
Hmm.
I want to have had an impact on the planet where
Hmm.
I left it a little bit better than I got it.
Hmm.
That was my goal too. So, what do I have to do that? Well, just be your best self because guess what? You're the best mother of your children because you're the only mother of your children. So
Hmm.
people stress so much about like, oh, I want to be a better this. You're the best mother of your children because they're your children,
Hmm.
right?
So that's why I want you to see. So what she did is what Monique just did is she took, and granted, whatever my motivation is, and we've turned it into 3 or 4 key areas, which can have words attached to them, which is some of the exercise that you'll talk about. We don't have to do mine now. But I mean, I think that it is simplicity, strength, self love, and there'll be another one. And attached to simplicity would not be spending money, would be living a simple life. Strength would be eating well and working out. Self love would be taking care of my mental health and my soul. And there'd be one other. And that is what Monique is trying to tell you about being your best life, right?
Right.
Did I get that right so far?
You absolutely did. Yay.
All right. Yay.
Yes.
So
So the
keep
thing is,
going.
you've got to, when you make a decision or you get to the point where you go through a process, whether it's with me or somebody else
Right.
that allows you to put process in place so that it takes you through the steps because people don't necessarily, I didn't just jump out of a plane and figure this stuff out. I kind of,
No, you lived it.
I had to live it, make some badass mistakes and be like, oh man, I don't want to do that again.
Hmm.
So the idea is you go through this process and you really look at what's working, what's not, and where you feel you're not aligned. So if Heidi had not put those certain plans in place or certain behaviors in place, she would
Hmm.
be out of alignment. So you can't say, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be financially secure or financially responsible and then continue to spend money. That is not alignment. So what I'm suggesting is in this CMO of your life process or just alignment in general is when your words, you say something, you make a goal, you have a goal, but then you have to have an actions that support that goal because
Hmm.
words mean nothing. Actions are everything, right?
That's
So
right.
somebody could say I love you and if they're beating each other up physically or emotionally or
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
it means nothing. So show up with the action. Don't show up with the words. Words are cheap. I
So take me through starting with, and it was funny when we were preparing for this and we were working on the notes together. So there's a series of questions that Monique will take you through, and she put a note. She put a note in our working notes was, and this is not questions you're asking me. This is how I am going to take them through it. And I didn't see it initially, and I was reviewing and preparing for today. And I look at this. This is where you don't speak a question. And I was like, okay. I thought that was hysterical. And it is so typical of the two of us. But
yeah,
anyway,
that's great.
so
That
all
is
right.
so
So
great.
let's start with what is happiness to you, and then I may just have some interjections about
That's
clarification.
fine. No, so it's like, listen, what contributes to your happiness? Like, is it when are you fully alive when you're with your kids? But let's be real. Kids can be tough. And for
Mhm.
me, I knew that I wasn't going to be a great mom if I was a stay-at-home mom. I would have shot myself in the head because that's not what that's not what lights me up. I was
Mm-hmm.
fully present and I was great when I was home and I was great when I was at the office. So I compartmentalized my life. I started my business for the purposes of being lit up in both places because I knew that if I took myself out of my, business world, I would be a miserable biatch. So I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what lights me up. That's my priority. So you have to look at what's the person's priority. Where is their happiness point? And where are they feeling like a lack of? Where is there something that's not right, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual? It could be a variety of those things. It could be a combination of those things. But ultimately speaking, you have a bump or a lump or a something that is like turning into some, thing, and it's not healthy.
So what
And
happens when you see it in a couple areas of your life? Because doesn't that so I often find that human beings will pick a couple of things and it's so overwhelming that they
yeah,
get stuck before they get started.
that's right. So, the old expression, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. It's kind of true. So you have to take these things in bite-sized steps, because it's not
Hmm.
like, so give an example, the lack of something in all of these areas can sometimes be traced back to the same thing. So if somebody doesn't feel worthy, somebody doesn't feel they're good enough, because it's always about it being enough, right? Whether it's pretty enough, thin enough, rich enough, it's always about enough. And our culture with social media being so prevalent is not
Yep.
helping. So
Nope.
this enoughness, as I call it, is causing really bad mental health. We have, I read a great book, by the way, The Happiness Advantage, which I highly recommend. Um, we have, kids who are from affluent homes, who have everything, who are at Ivy League schools, who have never been more clinically depressed, anxious. We're raising a bunch of anxious people. We're in a situation where we're overwhelmed with content. We're overwhelmed with noise, with very poor, in my opinion, role models. I find it very disconcerting to see who
By
are.
the way, I get triggered by what goes on. So, and I'm a relatively evolved adult, I would say, and there are things on people, situations on social media that trigger me
Yeah,
and make me feel less of myself. And so because I'm working on being enough, right? So there are places in my life where I don't feel enough. And there are things on social media. I actually came to this aha the other day is that trigger me. And I'm like, I've got to find a healthy way to remove them. You don't just shut things out of your life. You have to figure out how to manage through it. But we get triggered in different areas based on where we're not feeling enough. So I wholeheartedly, and then that's not just young people, that's people
that's
across the board.
everybody. It's absolutely everybody. So this whole
Hmm.
FOMO culture that we've built, right? So fear of
Hmm.
missing out. For me, it's problematic. So it's massively problematic. And until you're strong enough to say that you are enough in all the areas that you need to have be enough for yourself, you're
Hmm.
going to get triggered. So the first step is really to see, where you're happy, take all the extraneous and sideline conversations and stuff away and focus on yourself. And then it is, where and how do I get triggered? And then you see the relationship between where you think you're not enough and where you're allowing or you're being triggered because of the not enough.
Hmm.
So if I am, let's say, not pretty enough and I'm consuming stuff that makes me feel worse, not good. So what do you do with the behavior? What do you do with the mental dialogue that you're having with yourself that allows you to look at, glamour, Vanity Fair, or don't read those magazines, right? Because we all know, the reality is we all know what the game is. It's just to sell more shit. I'm in marketing. I'm pretty pragmatic about it. So you have a 19-year-old who you probably think is about 28 or whatever. She's not. She's been airbrushed. She's been worked on for 5 hours to look like she has no makeup, but she really doesn't. It's not real life. Like, it's just not. And so that's the person.
So you said so you went through what contributes. So the first one of the first steps was to identify what makes you happy and then what contributes to your happiness. And you broke it down into physical, spiritual, professional, personal. So talk to me when you talk about what contributes, what would I be doing in those key areas? Would I be writing stuff down?
You will. You do. So one of the exercises that I ask some of my clients to go through is, if you were to write your eulogy today, what would it be?
Hmm.
Or better, if you were to write the eulogy that you really want to have read
Hmm.
at the time that you pass, what would it be? And I
Hmm.
think that's when I realized, when I went through that exercise, I was like, shit,
Hmm.
I yell too much. I have too short a temper. Mm, I'm going to be one of those people they remembered as, like, the firecracker, but not in a good way. Right. So I was like, yeah, I got to work on that. I got to work on that because I don't want to be known as like the
And by the
biatch.
way, this is such a good example because then when you stop there and you do exactly so mine, I've got a similar how people will remember me, right? Really direct, very outspoken, etc., tough as nails. And so now when you look at that and know that you don't want to be remembered, I don't want to be remembered for that, you don't want to be remembered for this. Now you have to back in, I think what I'm hearing is to what generates that. So you can make a change
Yeah.
to that in what
Yeah.
area there is.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying a little bit, like, once you look at that and you figure out that this is going to show up in different areas of your life, it's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I figured out was the reason I was such a biatch is because I thought I still had something to prove. And I was, dealing with the bullying and the bullshit that I went through as a kid. Now I know
Mm-hmm.
we're all products of how we grew up. And I get it. I'm
That's
not,
true.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
but there are ways for people to become self-aware and to not replicate behavior that was brought on by experiences that may or may not have been positive. And so what you do is you say to yourself, it's over. It happened and it's over. And I have the opportunity every single day to create a new version of my truth for the day. So every day, you don't have to set these big ass goals like, in the next 30 years, I'm going to be a perfect human. No, you're going to be as good as you can be every day when you step out of bed. That's it. So if I don't want to yell and be a yeller or I have to work on the side of me that is actually giving people joy. Both of us are very direct and very, whatever the case may be, but I needed to work on being vulnerable. I
Soft.
needed to work on being thoughtful
Mm-hmm.
and poised and a better listener. I'm still working on that. It's because I'm so quick. I'm like, I'm going to finish your sentences. I'm going to get to your
And I want to, and I would want to do a great aside because I mean, we just
and you
so
just
funny
did it. Like,
together,
that's exactly
right?
the point. Right.
Right.
Like,
So yesterday we were having this conversation, and I was like, okay, so we're going to go about this. And Monique says, "You're not listening to me. This is how it's going to work." I said, "You don't understand. It's my podcast. This is what I want to do. You should have heard us." But that's a perfect example, and she's right. And guys, it's so and what is like one of the ahas you have to take away from what Monique just said is the minute you make it this huge thing, it's untenable. You can't reach it. But if you do what she articulated in the beginning and you get up at the beginning of every single day and you just try to be that better version that you want of yourself that day, you're one step closer
right.
to being
So
that better person.
every day, and I have these three words in my office for a reason, and they're usually I face the other way. And
Right.
so when I look up, they're part of so it's kind of a vision board, right? So you see these pictures. These are my happy places. They're Paris,
Yeah.
where I was born, and
Right.
South Carolina, where I love to vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my subconscious and in my aura during the day,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my happy places and I'm looking at my words to remind myself that, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be intentional and bold, but you also need to be grateful for all the things that are going right in your life.
I
And
totally agree.
so if you don't have that balance in that room, so you have to build these little reminders, whether you put a sticky note on the bathroom mirror when you wake up first
Mm-hmm.
thing that says,
Mm-hmm.
I am beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
am worthy. My life is, even if it's not, think about the Oprah story. She had nothing. She started a gratitude journal, and the first thing she was only able to do because her life was so shitty was, I am alive. That was it. That was her first entry. She didn't have anything else to be grateful for because everything else sucked. Now look at her. But gratitude can be the this place that you start. You have to look at Where am I getting joy? Where am I not getting joy? What am I saying and what am I doing and what is not in alignment with one
So
another?
talk about the power of words and the power of language.
Oh, the power of words. Oh my gosh. Oh, um, literally, there's a whole, if you read books on the neurology, that you can actually impact the way your cells in your body work and operate by the language that you put out, because when you put it out there, it lines up the usual. Well, I mean, it just does, right? So there's a
Hmm.
whole lot of, I'm a terrible storyteller when it comes to science, but I understand it. And that is that if you say it out loud, I'm so fat, I'm so stupid. Something happens, you say, I'm so stupid. Like your body just goes, like you have a physical, psychological, and emotional response to the words you just put out there. So, in, don't do the negative talk. Don't do that. And because when you do something positive, affirm it. Create affirmations for yourself. Write them, download them from the internet. I don't care. If look at a theme, say positive affirmations for, beauty, positive affirmations for whatever you want to do. Something that works as a reminder, put it in a place where you'll see it, constantly telling yourself. The other thing that I don't like is when people do that with their children. They have negative words. Like I'll never forget. Like my dad was incredibly proud of me. May he rest in peace. He's been gone 14 years. But I'll remember bringing home a grade, my report card or something, and I got a 99 in Spanish. And he said, "What happened to the extra point? Are you kidding me right now?" Now, I am not of the mindset that Johnny and Susie should get a trophy if they lose the game. Okay, I'm not about that. Like, because that does not teach them life. That does not teach them reality. That does not teach them anything. And by the way, I have a great podcast that I'd like, at some point to talk about. My girlfriend Karen just did a thing, Taking Back the House. It's phenomenal. Dr. Karen Latimer. She's amazing. Anyway,
Do me a favor, say
I'll,
that
I'll,
slowly
I will. I will.
because I will do that. Yep.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's totally amazing. She just launched the Audible book. It's fabulous. My point is like you can't do that. You want to teach Johnny and Susie what life is about, but oh, your hair looks terrible. Go. No, you don't do that. You're just like, are
Yeah,
you
I mean the power. I think the power of language, and I'll use myself as an example. I was raised in a very critical household, so the only
okay?
way I knew, and the only way I knew how to talk to myself was the way my parents spoke to me. And um, the work that I am doing now um, about being kind and being soft, and when things happen to me, how I respond and talk to myself
Right.
is what I am trying to work on, because I will tell everybody that's willing to listen, if you put yourself out in the world in a certain way, you will keep attracting the same types of people back into your life
Exactly.
until you get to a different place.
Right. So I mean, again, another book and another theory, the law of attraction, which I firmly believe in, and
Hmm.
affirming things and so on. That is part of what you wanted to look at. When I
Hmm.
talk about alignment,
Hmm.
you want to talk about the alignment of your words, the alignment of your
Right.
actions, the alignment of your objectives. If you're saying something and you're not lining them up with how you speak to yourself, let alone
Hmm.
others, you're not in
Right.
alignment. This is all. Then it becomes all bullshit. And so my family, we've all gone to training, and my family will keep me dead honest. And when I get sideways, my son's like, "Oh, you still working on that, huh, mom?" He's 20. He's 20, but I can hear him. Yeah, no, but that's it. That's the accountability that like, and my husband will say, you can read all the books in the world and you can listen to all the podcasts on the planet. But if you let that shit bother you, then you've learned nothing. So we have this like very accountable culture in my family. And
No, I
my
think that's
daughters
amazing.
my daughter's friends call us savage because there's nothing that's said.
But you know what? You went in together as a family. So what a wonderful way to do that, because not only are you makes your, I would imagine, your marriage stronger, but it makes your relationship with your children stronger, and they too will have
I
great
hope,
relationships.
I
Yeah,
hope so.
that's
So
the
it's
idea.
very funny when you're not in alignment, man. I got peeps that'll go pull me right back in and be like, "Yo, what's
Yeah.
up with that?"
Yeah. So step back, we're gonna wind up in a few, but so we started with words, and we started with, taking stock of your life and setting an intention, based on. So once you've taken stock of your life in the areas that you want to improve, you want to see change, you attach you attach descriptive words, simple words that can align and that you can keep in mind, and then the actions follow. So now, honestly, this is something that in order to do this really well, you would need to do this with Monique, but just in general,
You
that is
can
how,
start, yeah, you can start to
this is
dip
how
your
you
toe in
can
the
start.
water. Yeah.
Right. And the question that she poses is, when you ask yourself, are you happy? Just that alone, if you sit quietly long enough to ask, are you happy? And you can say, yeah, well, not so much, then you just keep asking, as she said, you just keep asking yourself questions and making note. And the eulogy idea, or reading what someone would say about you, she made me do that. So now we all know about Heidi and what she will and won't do, and so on and so forth. And I'm a good writer, but even today, I mean, I can make it pretty simple. It's a great alignment exercise. It does really force you. So even if you can't answer the question, am I happy? If you can write your own eulogy about how you want to be remembered, and you match that up to where you are today, and you do it in business language, a gap analysis, guess what? You'll get there pretty quickly.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
You do.
And then where you go from there is important. So there was a quote that Monique shared with me that I wanted her to share with you, and then we'll close up for our next round. So I leave it in your hands for that piece.
Sure. So, all of this that we're talking about today, when I saw this quote, I hadn't known about it until a couple of months ago, and I found a Mahatma Gandhi quote that I feel
Mm-hmm,
like really encapsulates everything about the CMO of Your Life program as I see it,
mm-hmm,
and that
mm-hmm.
is, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do is in harmony. Pretty cool.
So guys, this to me is, I've kept trying to fine tune my mission and of what I want to leave the planet with. This is it. Exposing you to incredible human beings who are flawed, have worked on themselves, and are giving back to make other people's lives better. And so I just feel like I'm the knowledge broker of sharing this stuff. And that is my mission. I have my own story to tell and my own way of doing things. But what Monique just shared with you, she lives a good life. She lives a purposeful life, and she's worked really hard at it. So I will leave all the appropriate information in the podcast, and she and I will continue to talk about ways to bring some of this to bear. But she's been with me in my darkest places, and I just want to thank you, because I want to thank you for sharing this. I think it's brilliant, by the way. I just think the whole idea is this is what I want her to do for the rest of her life. I want her to say, forget businesses, and I want her to do this
Yes.
because she's so good at it. She knows how to ask the right questions. She knows how to just go to the next level and the next level. So if you're ready and you want to do that, then you'll be able to click on the link in the podcast and go there. But I want to thank you.
Thank you. Mwah.
Mwah. Much kisses, and we will be back.